So I have seen The Penguin, and let's talk about it. I'll tell you about my expectations, and then we'll get into the actual show itself. But I've seen every single episode, 8 episodes, each around an hour long. There's a couple that are just below an hour. My expectations going into this show were actually very high. Maybe not as high as maybe I wanted to be. I thought the trailers looked great, but I also thought the Batman set the bar so high. How's it going to reach that, right? And one thing that I noticed when rewatching the trailers after watching the show is it kind of added they added some kind of anamorphic filter over a lot of the shots. I can promise you now, that's not in the show. I'm not too sure why they did that. I know they did it to look like the Batman. There was no need. It doesn't look like that in the show. Don't need to worry about that. I think when it moved over to HBO, they probably sorted that out if that was initially in the show. Anyway, you saw the title. The Penguin is outstanding. I love the trailers, but my god, do they not do justice. Time to talk about The Penguin. There is a reason they moved it from Max to HBO, because I thought that this show was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. We're going to talk about it. I have a lot to say. Obviously, no spoilers whatsoever. If you're going to ask me any spoilers in the comments, I ain't going to answer. Such as, is there anyone from the Batman that shows up in the show? You'll have to find out. But let's start with the performances. We'll start with Colin Farrell, who, for me, I'm a big fan of Colin Farrell. I've seen a lot of his films. I think his best work is in Bruges and Banshees of Inisherin. However, I think my favourite performance of Colin Farrell is in this show. I thought he was incredible in this show. Every single episode, he does some things in the later half of the show that I just... tragic. I think tragic is a word that I'm going to use a lot in this show, and a lot in this review, and devastating. Colin Farrell is absolutely incredible. Kristen Milioti is... best work from her as well. I thought she had an incredible presence that every single time she walked in the room, she had an incredible presence about her. She is scary, but she is also someone that you really root for, especially after episode 4. Episode 4, I think, is the first fantastic episode of the show. I admittedly, I thought the first episode was fantastic, in fairness. But I think episode 2, great. Episode 3, great. Episode 4, episode 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah. Bar's very high. Deirdre O'Connell, who plays Oz's mum. I have a lot to say about the dynamic between his mum and Oz because, again, I mentioned before, tragic and devastating is a word that I'll be saying a lot, and their dynamic is quite emotionally devastating, and I'm not hinting at what you possibly think I'm hinting at. I just mean the storytelling between them, the dynamic. We do look into Oz's past, and as a character, Oz is the writing is outstanding. And Renzi Felix, who plays Victor, and Victor has a really interesting dynamic with Penguin because I think that I don't believe it's been shown in trailers or anything like that, but he has a stutter, and I think Oz immediately kind of latches onto that. He kind of creates a common ground between him and Victor because I think Oz knows he's somebody who people look down on, He's got an insecurity about himself. He's got a flaw with himself that Oz doesn't see as a flaw. And Oz feels the exact same way, He's got the limp. He's called the Penguin. He's looked down on by a lot of people, by people who really aren't in much power, And there's a certain scene it might be episode 3, I think. Episode 2, episode 3, where Oz and Victor are having dinner and they're having a chat. It's shown in the trailer briefly, and a waiter comes up to ask what they want. Victor starts to stutter a little bit as he's trying to pronounce one of the words on the menu, and the waiter kind of interrupts him and says what he thinks he's trying to say, and Oz doesn't have it. He says, "No, let him finish." I thought that was a brilliant moment. Again, I'll let you experience for yourself. That's not a spoiler. I have a spoiler sheet, so I know what not to reveal. But I think that's a fantastic moment that kind of summarizes their relationship, and it also summarizes Oz as a character, because God is he layered in this season. Again, I mentioned the first 3 episodes are great, but don't come close to this very high ceiling that this show sets later on. It becomes very intense and brilliant. The visuals aren't the Batman. I suppose if you're supposed to come up with a flaw for this show, the visuals aren't the Batman. It's still visually fantastic, especially again in that latter half of the season. But it still stands on its own 2 legs. Still looks fantastic, and great visual storytelling, especially in the finale, which is supported greatly by the fantastic directing. Yeah, there's just some fantastic visual storytelling in this show. It's not simple, and I like that. It goes above and beyond. The score as well. The score was done by Michael Giacchino's son, who did work on the Batman as well. Great score. Maybe doesn't have that much of a presence as in the Batman. I think the Batman really drives that. The music really drives that film. But it's still good, and it supports the show really well. You'll notice in the opening of season 1, opening of episode 1, he takes a little bit of that Batman theme and changes it a little bit. But it's got a great soundtrack as well, just, from the music soundtrack pick. Some great songs in there. Mark Strong, who has, been confirmed to be in this show. He has a guest appearance. He's only in 1 episode. Very good, very unrecognizable. I couldn't believe it was Mark Strong. He doesn't sound exactly like the character he's portraying in the present day. But you can easily just say, between then and there, it's 10 years before you can get away with it. But one thing I wanted to mention, because I think that this probably surprised me the most. I wasn't expecting this show to be really, really emotionally driven. It can get really sad and very difficult to watch, especially when it comes to Oz and his mum and his past, because he does have brothers. And they dive into that a lot, and it made me feel a little sick. Just, especially in reflection of the show, the final scene of season 1. Oh, God. It is violent. It is... it's brutal, a lot of bad language, a little bit of nudity. It's R-rated. But yeah, it was very sad. Very, very sad, and especially with Sophia Falcone as well. Brilliant character, very well written, a lot of emotional elements to her story as well. I was really rooting for her, especially after that episode 4. And there is a certain scene, I will not reveal this scene whatsoever. I'm not going to give you a tease of this scene, but there's a certain scene in, I want to say episode 7, that broke my heart. Just broke my heart. She has an interaction with someone a little younger than her. Broke my heart. I think it's one of the saddest scenes I've seen this year. And especially the scene that follows that, in which Sophia kind of expresses her feelings in relation to what had happened previously. Really, really sad. Great character. Just everyone a great character. I was surprised with how much the mum's in the show. The mum's barely been shown in the trailers. She's in it a lot. Again, she's a driving force for Oz. Thematically, it's not as strong as the Batman, but thematically, again, stands on its own. It approaches its themes very differently. Ultimately, we're watching corrupt people in a corrupt world and see how they handle that situation, how they try to survive in an environment like that. So the themes are quite different, but they tackle it a little bit more subtly. I think that's what you expect when you watch a more mature show, especially a HBO show. The themes are not in your face. I think some themes may be missed. And I think when people start seeing this show and start talking about it now and have a dialogue about this show, I think there's a lot to take from it, because there is a lot of characters and there's a lot of threads. There's a lot going on in this show, and it comes together really, really well. And it does stand on its own. It does stand on its own. It doesn't rely on the Batman. It doesn't have much in relation to the Batman. You could probably say to someone who's never seen it, by the way, this happened, this happened, this happened. Enjoy the show. Like, very simple. You can kind of summarize the Batman in relation to this show moving forward. I mean, those are all my notes. I have so much to say. I mean, it's 8 hours of fantastic TV. If I had to have a flaw, I suppose it would be that it's not as good as the Batman. But the bar is very high for that. There are some visuals here and there that maybe could have been better. I mean, you get Greg Fraser in there and he'll make it into something amazing, but very little things. Very, very little things. Victor, great character. His arc, fantastic. I thought maybe it would have gone a little further, but the kind of final scene in the show, which features his character, again, that doesn't reveal anything. The show obviously ends. I think summarizes his entire arc, and it's really, really good. And I think I was thinking prior, halfway through that final episode, I was like, I feel like there's something missing. I need him to, oh yeah, great character, incredible show. Incredible. I don't know if it's recency bias. I don't know if it's maybe the bias of just having screeners itself. But, and I think I'm going to say it, The Penguin is a masterpiece. I said it, I'm worried that a lot of people aren't going to feel the same, but fingers crossed they do, because I don't want to confuse you. But I thought this was absolutely incredible. It's, for me, top 5 comic book media of all time. Genuinely up there with The Dark Knight, with the Batman, Logan, incredible storytelling. I'd say the storytelling's stronger than the Batman, but I think that's simply because the Penguin has more time to tell its story. Incredible. There are moments that I genuinely started clapping. Like, it's that good. It's that good. Well, I reacted to the entire show, so you can check those reactions out every single week as the episode drops after the episode, so about an hour after the episode, or no, when the episode ends, I'll drop the reaction. Wow. What was my favourite episode? Probably finale, but it could be any of those last 5 episodes, to be completely honest. Incredible. Thank you for watching the video. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, like, share, comment, all the good stuff. My Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd down below if you'd like to drop off them. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.